This is a long video, so let's jump in. Can you beat Final Fantasy VII Rebirth without using Materia? Just like the last videos, we cannot use Materia of any kind, including summons. We can use anything else at my disposal. The difficulty, by the way, is also set to dynamic. Let's begin. This is totally Cloud's perspective of the Nibelheim incident, and is our tutorial chapter. As such, there isn't all that much to talk about other than the differences in the moveset. Cloud can now attack enemies from afar with air slashes and is just far more versatile in the air, with him being slightly stiffer on the ground. We can no longer perform a counter-strike as quickly as we could in Remake. On top of that, Punisher mode also has a wider attack range. One last thing to note is that if we block at the perfect moment for any character, we can just take no damage from an attack. We begin following Tifa up the mountain, and we find some monsters, and Cloud feels the need to show off. We get used to the fighting system by fighting a few more up the mountain before the completely nameless infantryman saves Tifa. Sephiroth certainly earns that paycheck by letting us do the rest of the work while he relaxes at the back. We are then required to use a Marco vacuum to clear the Marco. You'd think that they would have invented something wireless by this point, but I guess not. We fall off the bridge and Sephiroth joins the party. He is an absolute powerhouse in combat with several range and close range attacks. We continue up the mountain until we find the Materia Guardian. We need to be making sure that we dodge the grab and counter-attacking with Sephiroth. We then get to hear the most perplexing line in all of the game.
You're practically panting.
I'm excited.
Such a puppy.
We then get to use the synergy ability Double Helix. After all that, we finish him off with the Limit Break and the Materia Guardian goes down. Sephiroth proceeds to go a little insane and makes someone an ingredient of his skewer. Cloud finishes his story and Red 13 takes Barrett's bed. We awake in calm and Red requests us to update his gear. We do not. Now that we have the party together, we now unequip all the materia because I really hate myself. Something to note is the new progression system, folios, which are basically the skill tree for every character. There's no concretely right way to set up, so feel free to customize your tree and party however you like. This is my video, so I'll have a visual aid to show you what I ended up doing. Now we get to go on a date with Aerith, only to be scolded by Barrett. We then gain access to the grasslands and we get to explore for a little bit. We want to be making sure to switch out the characters very often so that we learn all of their weapon abilities. This will leave us flexible if we want to change our party setup quickly. If you ever find that you don't like how you've done your skill tree, you can hold square at any point and it will reset all of them for that character, giving you all those points back. Something else finally worth noting is that we can sell our materia we pick up for Gil for other things like potions or equipment. We then find Chocobo Bill. He tells us to find some dock, which we do, finding the Sleek Saber, which we equip to learn Firebolt Blade. Bout suggests a little swimming, but we want a Chocobo, so we go hunting for one. At this point, we can proceed through to the boss. However, I do recommend doing some exploration first to both get crafting ingredients and XP from encounters. I'm not going to go over every single thing we did craft, but just be aware that we are constantly crafting new things. We also ended up doing about half of the world intel. I prioritised going after the things like Mako crystals for the items, the towers, and the battles and the excavation sites, those kind of things. While going through the swamp, we find the high caliber rifle for Barrett. We do one final folio check for this chapter, and then go on to fight the Midgar Sorma. This fight had me insanely worried for the rest of the challenge. This thing has a wide range of physical and magical attacks and can hit multiple party members. We keep at range with Barrett using maximum fury whenever we can while charging Red's vengeance mode and hitting physically with Cloud. Once we enter phase 2, he uses far more powerful attacks. When he uses Scorching Breath, we need to make sure we get behind one of the trees because it has a deceptively large range. Just keep making sure that everyone is healed and you should be able to grind him down. Only to find out it doesn't matter and Sephiroth steals our kill. We enter the Mithril Mine and the party gets separated. Cloud, Tifa and Aerith and Barrett and Red 13. We continue fighting through the mine, picking up a new weapon for Tifa, which we equip to learn Reverse Gale. We then find the Turks Elena and Rude. Don't worry, these guys go down relatively easily. We focus primarily on Elena, her weakness to wind, so we can use Tifa's newly acquired Reverse Gale, which is also a wind attack. We pressure her and use a couple braves and dive kicks. We enter phase 2 and we want to continue focusing on Elena and defeating her. Then we turn to Rude, who by himself goes down pretty easily. Sung then appears, telling us to look after Aerith, preceded by throwing a grenade at her. The party is separated again, and we play as Barrett and Red. We find a weapon for Red and learn the ability. We keep going through the cave, pushing some minecarts in the process until we begin fighting the Mithril Golem. We want to focus on the head using bonus round with Barrett to build up the stagger, and then go all out with a Maximum Fury and Stardust Ray. In phase 2, he will have more weapons on him, focus on the head, and then attack the weapons while the Golem is staggered. We do this a couple times, and the Mithril Golem is beaten along with the chapter. We now unlock the Junon region, and like clockwork, do some world intel for a couple hours to get that XP and items. We also take the time afterwards to update the folios. After that small diversion, we head down to Lower Junon, where there's an unimportant side character in danger. We end up having to fight the giant fish. The big thing with this giant fish is that he can trap characters in the water. If this happens, all we need to do is hit the character with a magic attack. While we can't use things like fire, on the folios we can learn abilities like wildfire, which will do the same thing. The other thing is that he can summon a tornado in the center of the arena. To dodge, we just continuously roll away until the attack is over. Mr. Dolphin lands an assist, Cloud fails CPR training, and we head back to the inn and rest. We are rudely interrupted by Roche, who disappears as quickly as he enters. We do a Dolphin minigame, an insane flip, and then are in Upper Junon. For some bizarre reason, Cloud is elected as the head of the parade, because I'm sure that's just how that works in real life. We have to gather 5 out of 10 of the units for the parade. We proceed to do the coolest QuickTime minigame of all time and get to meet the president. Unfortunately, Yuffie tries to get a headshot and misses. Rufus obviously blames the most likely culprits, the people he saw not do that, and lets us go. We pick up a new weapon for Cloud and learn Disorder. This ability is incredible in this game, which is something I didn't know without this no-Materia run. If you activate Disorder in midair, Cloud will swing his sword in a windmill style and throw the small enemies around him into the sky. If you pair this with Braver, you can destroy almost everything. We want to keep all the party alive in this segment, so if someone does get low, make sure you give them a potion. Don't worry, it won't be wasted, we'll get it back. Osh then demands a rematch, which we give him. Wait for him to do a charge attack at you and counter with Punisher. Just be careful, because a Punisher counter will not counter magic attacks and Roche will combo you. Make sure to get all the loot in the room just outside. With all that, Cloud gets exposed. We then all get a free luxury cruise.
As for you, back to work. Aye, sir.
This chapter is a very short one, and we can skip over the majority of it, except the Red 13 discrimination here.
My apologies, sir, but I'm afraid animals are not allowed to participate.
What? I'm no mere animal, thank you. That's it. I want to speak with your manager. Why am I only just now learning this is restricted to humans?
And of course, we can't skip over this.
It can't hurt you.
Now for the battles. The entities go down easily enough with max unbridled strength for Tifa and good use of Cloud's counter. We find Tifa's weapon in here and learn Overpower. We catch up with the robes before the captain goes for a high score on zombies. Genova is up next and is shockingly quite easy. But just before that, we want to update our folios, obviously. We want to max unbridled strength first and keep Tifa in the air, constantly applying pressure, while using Barrett's Max Fury paired with bonus round. We repeat this for all phases in the fight, but just be sure to target the specific body parts to stagger after phase 1 and unleash the limit breaks. With Genova defeated, we head to the beach. This chapter, much like the previous, is mostly story until the boss, so I will leave you with this Red 13 moment. As for the boss, however, in the previous fight leading up to it, you want to choose the character set you're best with. For me, this was Tifa and Red. Now, we want to swap between a distance and up close. The boss has a poison inflicting attack, and he can also do an AoE spin. As the fight continues, more of your party will be captured. This can be manipulated by playing as the character you want to be captured at the point the boss uses the move Subject Retrieval. Eventually, you'll be down to just Cloud. Keep up the assault into Phase 2. Once in Phase 2, we want to do an all-out assault on the legs to stagger the boss quickly and finally defeat him. After all that, Yuffie joins the party. So, remember about 8 minutes ago when I said that any party combination was valid and that none were categorically better than the others? Well, I lied. Allow me to introduce you to the automatic win button, Yuffie. Think I'm over-exaggerating? Yeah. She works identically to the way she does in Intermission, which I explain in detail in the Intermission no-Materia run, which you should totally check out if you haven't already. Now, as per usual, we run around in the open world a little bit doing the crystals, towers, and encounters we find in the area. As we climb up the mountain, we are locked into a party. For the climb up, we are forced with Cloud, Aerith, and Red. This works okay, as we have been using all the characters' weapons, so everyone's got equipment and levels. The climb up is pretty uneventful, other than a close call with these turtle looking guys. We stagger them and use a Stardust Ray. We shuffle again with the folios just a little bit. We are then met with a rematch with the Valkyrie from Remake. The most important thing with this boss is to constantly be switching characters so it doesn't target one character for too long. Use a Radiant Ward with Aerith, Disorders and Bravers with Cloud, and Sidewinders with Red. Phase 2 is more tricky, is what I would say if we didn't just stagger and beat him easily. Oops. Zack appears for a bit of the story, which is just as forced into the script as it is in the game. Cloud tries to go for a swim, and we are in control of the other three, Yuffie, Barret, and Tifa, where we have to climb up the mountain to activate the bridge. Yuffie is insanely powerful, so this whole section is relatively easy. Once at the top, we find our little bird, and he's about to be eaten alive. This boss is also pretty easy. Its weakness is fire, so we can just use Yuffie's ninjutsu on it. Just make sure you don't get petrified, and it should be okay. We save Little Cloud Jr. and swap to the other party, who ready the minecart tracks. We play another minigame, shooting down the boxes. Cloud tries to kill Barret, and then to go and celebrate, we go to the gold saucer. We'll be skipping most of Chapter 8 as it is mostly minigames, but we do enough of them to get enough of the points for the books. We also get Tifa's weapon from the box minigame, as well as Cloud's too for Prime mode. We also obviously fix up the folios. Near the end of the chapter, we have to fight Dine. This is a one-on-one with Barret. Whenever he tries to get a hit in, get behind some of the rubble, and if you can, charge up and overcharge while you're covered. Whenever he does paralyzing shot, back up and dodge between them. After a little while, he will use the rubble as an arm. If you destroy it, Dine will be pressured, and then you can stagger him. Keep repeating this, and you should have him pretty easily. The next boss is Palma. We need to have Yuffie in the front line so she can pressure him with Thunder Ninjutsu. He goes down incredibly easily, just make sure you stagger him and dodge his ray attacks. We have now unlocked the final party member, Cait Sith. Cait Sith is a luck-based character and is a very good character in this challenge specifically. He has an ability called Roll of the Dice. This can do many things, including cast regen on the whole party, cast protect on the whole party, and deal elemental magical damage. I like to think of this as a light DMW system from Crisis Core. We do some more of the world intel for this region before moving on to Gungaga. We do a little world intel in Gungaga, but we are very much on the main scenario here. We meet up with Sistane and denounce Zack Fair. We fight our way through the reactor and do more cable puzzles. My favourites. Hojo's latest creation. We want to be constantly using Cait Sith and his dice rolls to get constant buffs. Keep up the pressure with Cloud and Barret, and we should get into phase 2 quite easily. Hopefully by this point, like me, you'll have a limit break, so you can just use it to get an easy stagger. We then switch parties to Yuffie, Aerith, and Tifa. Before we go, we pick up Yuffie's weapon in Sistane's house. Now, if you thought Yuffie was OP before, prepare to be wowed. The ability Doppelganger creates a copy of Yuffie, and it will copy everything she does. A little thing I didn't know until much later is that potions used by Yuffie while Doppelganger is activated are also doubled, so you get 2 potions for the use of 1. We fight through the reactor again and go on to fight Scarlet. Using Yuffie's new move and Tifa's unbridled strength, she goes down pretty easily. Tifa gets slashed, dies, and gets brought back to life. We then meet the legendary Sid Highwind and fly to Cosmo Canyon. We'll be skipping most of Chapter 10, as it's mostly story. Red 13 and Barret go into the caves and fight through them. Most of this area is pretty easy, but the boss is interesting. Of course, beforehand, we fix up our folios. Gain attack absorbs HP when he attacks and casts Doom. We need to stagger him and defeat him ASAP. Once he activates Doom in phase 2, we will die immediately. So when it's casted, we need to go on an all-out attack. We have another Zakfair scene, and we move on to Nibelheim. We begin by dividing up the party. Cloud, Yuffie and Tifa, and Barrett, Kate Sith, Red, and Aerith. Cloud and his party climb up the mountain to the reactor. The climb is pretty uneventful up until the Diabolic variant. After damaging this boss, he will split off into several different bosses. We need to focus on one and then move on to the others. Just keep an eye on your HP and you should be alright. Now, for the second party, we head into the Shinra Manor and need to play as Kate Sith for this entire segment. Welcome to the worst part of the game and challenge. Kate Sith has disgustingly weak attacks, and by himself, he is the weakest character in the game. Unfortunately, I don't really have a whole lot to add here, just make sure you keep his HP up and dodge every attack. We then proceed to do our folios afterwards. We then meet up with Vincent Valentine, and he pulls a gun on us. Instead of letting the cat die for the hell we just had to play through, we instead fight the cool vampire / werewolf. We just need to make sure we're using roll of the dice and pressuring Vincent. We need to be keeping a distance while he attacks, and as soon as an opening presents itself, we go in for bravers. Be careful of his counter, Inner Turmoil. Just use ranged attacks and it will pressure him. And again, stagger him and deal as much damage as you can. It's tough, but doable. The return to the Gold Saucer is pretty uneventful gameplay-wise. We get to play the other best quick-time minigame ever made, and then we get met by Don Neo and his lackeys trying to take over the Gold Saucer. The first phase of the arena is a lot of cack Neos. Stagger and focus on each one individually, and they'll go down very quickly. After that lot, up next is the Don Berry. As per usual with Don Berries, watch out for the Chef's Knife by rolling constantly and using abilities. Finally up next is the Don himself. In usual fashion, he instead sticks his pet on us, Abzu. We beat him the same way we do in Remake. The only new thing in this fight is his bravery and dash attacks, so we watch out for those. Next up, we fight Rude and Elena again, which goes more or less how their previous encounter went. Elena is a lot faster and is no longer weak to wind. So instead of that, we stagger her with Unbridled Strength with Tifa. Finally is the actual boss of this chapter, Rufus Shinra. Unlike in Remake, we don't have counter stance yet, so we need to do this legitly. Watch for an opening and go in. While he is pressured, instead of actually doing a focus thrust, I got better results with a Disorder and Punisher mode to increase the stagger. Once staggered, throw as many bravers down as possible. If you've got a limit break, make sure you use that as well. Don't take unnecessary risks with this one. This is a long fight. Halfway through, he'll call on Darkstar. Use a triple slash and focus on the dog. Keep your wits with you and you will get through this. This is the point of no return. If you want to grind or do more side quests, this is your final chance. We had roughly this much the world complete before heading in to the Temple of the Ancients. The Temple of the Ancients is a multi-hour grind with exploration and lots of enemies. I like to think of it as a dungeon from The Legend of Zelda. You don't like Zelda? Well, I tried, okay? I'm going to skip over a lot of this, as it's mostly lots of encounters with smaller enemies. A major thing worth noting at the beginning is that we finally get counter stance with Cloud, so make sure you pick up that weapon and make constant use of counter stance. The first big thing is the dragon about 1/3 of the way through the chapter. Make sure to target the head, wings, and chest. And again, make use of Yuffie's doppelganger ninjutsu combo. When he spews lava, run as far away from it as you can, and with all that, he should go down pretty easily. The party then splits into Cloud, Tifa, and Barrett, and Aerith, Yuffie, and Red. We do our folios once again. We swap between the parties a few times, and are finally treated with the boss duo everyone was waiting for.
Reno, you know what to do.
I find it a lot easier to focus on Reno because he moves around a lot and can stun you. Bait him into a counterattack with Tifa and dodge it. This will always get Reno pressured, and from there you can stagger him. Once in phase 2, we need to focus on the same Turk and fully defeat them. and then focus on the other. For me, again, this was Reno that needed to be taken down first. Once one is defeated, just like all these other Turk battles, the other one goes down without much of a hassle. After Reno and Rude are defeated, the other party needs to take down Elena and Song. This fight is very difficult. We need to focus on Elena first and get her to a low HP while dodging Song's attacks. After a while, phase 2 will begin. Song and Elena will team up and synergize their attacks. Whenever there's an opening, you need to attack with everything. This should pressure both of them, and from there try to beat the one you are focused on in phase 1. After all that, just defeat the other one. Demon's Gate is pretty easy, just be sure to dodge the falling ceiling and stagger him. After that, Cloud fetches his Materia. We fight our way out of the forest and arrive at the Forgotten Capital, where Aerith awaits. This is the final gauntlet of the no-Materia run, a boss rush of Genova, Sephiroth, Sephiroth Reborn, and Sephiroth again. As this is the final fight, be sure to use all of your gil on potions and armor. We will also be finishing up the folios one final time. Beginning with Genova, she will randomize your party by ejecting 3 party members. We need to be careful of the attacks and make sure Cloud remains as close to max HP as he can. After about 1/4 of her health has been lost, phase 2 will begin, where Genova ejects the rest of the party and only Cloud remains. Don't take unnecessary risks and play it slow. We can try to counterstance the slow swipe attack, but I ended up just dodging it each time. Phase 3 will begin, where we are in 3 groups of 2, destroying a specific part of Genova's body. Up first is Tifa and Kate Sith. Now, for some reason, I actually just had limit breaks with the other party members of these teams, so I just use those here. Do a couple star showers and we're all good. Next is Barret and Red. Maximum Fury and Stardust Ray are more than enough for these two. Finally is Cloud and Yuffie, where we do a couple Bravers and Arts of War. The final phase is now upon us. Once again, the team is randomized here too, so pray to the RNG gods. Genova will hit us quite a bit, so we need to be constantly switching characters. When Genova gets pressured, she will become invulnerable to physical attacks, so keep a distance and focus on healing at that point if you have to. Once she's staggered, she will lose that invulnerability, then we go all in with the limit breaks. With that, the easiest of the bosses are now defeated. Up next is Cloud and Zack against Sephiroth. The big thing worth noting for the actual Sephiroth fight is that to avoid Skewer, you need to dodge roll as soon as he warps away, not when he warps next to us, as we won't have enough time to roll away. If Sephiroth tries to charge, just block, as I found it's incredibly difficult to dodge all of his swipes. Just make sure Cloud and Zack remain at high HP and stagger Sephiroth, and we should be all good. Cloud and Zack then get separated, and we need to destroy the weak spot on Sephiroth Reborn. This is done with 2 or 3 Bravers. Now that that's over, we can finally begin actually attacking him. He will use Swarm, a projectile-based attack which we can dodge roll. Hell's Gate, which we wait until the flash to dodge roll. Interred Horror, which is a 5-point attack which we need to position ourselves correctly out of. And Zanshin, an energy beam attack which we can dodge roll from at the last second. So long as we keep up the pressure and use a limit break when it becomes available, we should be done with phase 1 within a few minutes. In phase 2, we are back in control of the main party, where they need to defeat Bahamut Arisen. We use Tifa with Unbridled Strength to stagger him and finish him off. Sephiroth Reborn will begin healing Bahamut, but with Yuffie's doppelganger we take out one of his wings. We repeat to stagger Bahamut again and attack the other wing with Yuffie. In phase 3, Zack gets a full heal and has the most normal reaction to the events the party find themselves in.
What in the hell is going on?
With Zack, we keep applying pressure to Sephiroth Reborn and make sure we're at charge level 3 for the strongest ability attacks. This phase should be over pretty quickly. In phase 4, we need to destroy the core, but to weaken the guard around the core, we need to destroy the wings again. We use Yuffie with Doppelganger to target the elemental weaknesses with ninjutsu. Be sure to pay attention because he shifts the elements frequently. After a while, we destroy the core with limit breaks. Finally, the last phase is here. Continue the pressure and stagger him. You will attempt to use Octaslash frequently in this phase, so you need to make sure you're at max HP at all times. And now for Sephiroth proper. Cloud and Aerith team up one final time. The big new attack here is the Whisper Cannon. This almost one-shots at full HP and is constantly moving. Sephiroth will use every one of his abilities throughout the saga, including Heartless Angel, which reduces the party's HP to 1. Make sure to have plenty of potions on standby, including X potions. This one's tough, but if you've made it this far, it's only a matter of time. Sephiroth is banished into part 3, Zack almost dies, again. Cloud has the black materia, and the challenge is over.